Number 1. Smart stitches. Post-surgical infections are one of the biggest killers in modern medicine. The problem is visibility. By the time a wound looks red and you feel a fever, the bacteria have already multiplied into a life-threatening army. You are reacting too late. High school students actually invented the solution sutures coated in a derivative of beet juice. This coating reacts to the specific change in pH balance that happens when skin gets infected. The moment infection starts, the stitches turn from purple to bright red. It is an integrated early warning system. It allows a patient to look down and say, "Hey, my arm is glowing red," prompting immediate treatment with mild antibiotics instead of waiting for full-blown sepsis and emergency surgery. So why aren't they standard? Because of bureaucratic inertia and penny pinching? Smart stitches cost a fraction of a cent more to produce than standard nylon threads. To a hospital buying millions of units, that tiny cost looks like a loss on a spreadsheet. The medical supply chain is incredibly resistant to change. They prefer to save pennies on the front end by buying cheap materials, ignoring the fact that they will lose thousands of dollars later treating the infections those cheap materials missed. It is a tragic paradox of modern healthcare. We have the technology to turn our skin into a dashboard warning light, saving thousands of lives. Yet we are denied this protection simply because a hospital accountant decided that treating a disaster is more cost-effective than buying a slightly more expensive piece of string. Number 2. The seizure dampening headband. For 50 million people with epilepsy, the worst part isn't just the seizure, it's the constant fear of the unknown. They can't drive or swim because they never know when their brain will suddenly short-circuit. A startup developed a headband that monitors EEG brainwaves in real time. It uses artificial intelligence to predict a seizure 20 minutes before it happens. Even better, it uses focal cooling technology to lower the brain's temperature and actually prevent the seizure from starting. Imagine the life-changing impact. Instead of collapsing on a sidewalk, you get a notification on your phone. You sit down, take medication, or let the headband cool your neural pathways. It turns a medical emergency into a minor inconvenience. So where is it? It died in the boardroom. Major tech and pharmaceutical companies analyzed the market size. They decided that 50 million customers wasn't a large enough demographic to justify the mass manufacturing and marketing costs. In the eyes of a trillion-dollar corporation, solving a specific medical crisis is less attractive than selling a slightly faster smartphone to billions of healthy people. Profit margins dictated that these patients weren't worth saving. This invention forces us to ask a hard question. Is the purpose of technology to save lives or just to sell gadgets? In a world run by profit margins, 50 million suffering people are apparently just a rounding error to the tech giants who could easily save them but choose not to. Number 3. The skin gun. The standard treatment for severe burns is barbaric. Doctors slice healthy skin off your unburned body parts to graft over the wounds. It is incredibly painful, takes months to heal, and leaves horrific scars. Enter the skin gun. This device isolates the patient's own stem cells in a solution and sprays them directly onto the burn site. Because the cells are spread evenly in a mist, they begin regenerating skin immediately, covering the wound in days, not months. The results were miraculous. Patients with second-degree burns were fully healed in just 4 days with skin that looked brand new. No scarring, no painful grafting surgeries. It sounds like magic, but it is real science. However, this device disrupts the business model of hospitals. A burn victim usually occupies a bed for weeks, requiring multiple surgeries and expensive care. That is a lot of revenue for the hospital. A device that sends patients home in 4 days destroys the profitability of the burn unit. The medical industry is slow to adopt technologies that drastically reduce the amount of care and money a patient needs. This is the dark, unspoken truth of for-profit medicine. Sometimes a cure is suppressed not because it doesn't work, but because it works too well. A device that empties hospital beds in 4 days is a miracle for the patient, but a financial disaster for the hospital's billing department. Number 4. The allergy detection pen. For millions of people with severe nut or shellfish allergies, dining out is terrifying. You are essentially trusting your life to a busy waiter who might not know if the chef used peanut oil. Technology exists to create a portable molecular scanner. You simply point the pen at your food. and sensors detect the specific protein signatures of allergens like peanuts or gluten, instantly giving you a green light or a red warning. But you can't buy this device. Why? Because of lawyers. The potential for liability is astronomical. If the pen malfunctions just once, giving a false, safe reading on a deadly meal, the user could die. The resulting lawsuit would bankrupt the manufacturer. No company is willing to take on the risk of being responsible for a life or death decision made by a cheap consumer gadget. So the technology sits on the shelf. We have the ability to see invisible poisons in our food, but we are too afraid of being sued to use it. So instead of enjoying the certainty of science, millions of allergy sufferers are forced to play Russian roulette with every meal. We have allowed the fear of lawsuits to paralyze progress, leaving us armed with nothing but anxiety and an EpiPen waiting for the worst to happen. Number 5. The internal bleeding patch. Internal bleeding is a silent killer. A patient can look perfectly fine after an accident, unaware that they are slowly bleeding to death inside until their blood pressure drops and it's too late. Researchers at MIT created a solution, a sticky patch the size of a stamp. It uses ultrasound technology to continuously monitor the volume of fluid in the bladder and kidneys. If it detects blood pooling, it alerts doctors instantly. The patch is incredibly cheap to mass produce, but that is exactly the problem. Hospitals have already invested millions of dollars in giant CT scanners and MRI machines that generate huge fees per use. Replacing expensive scans with a $10 disposable sticker makes no financial sense for a for-profit healthcare system. They would rather bill your insurance $5,000 for a scan than sell you a cheap sticker. Low-cost diagnostics are often ignored because there is no profit margin in simplicity. The medical industry is designed to maximize revenue, not just health. It is a sobering lesson in economics. In a system designed to maximize revenue, efficiency is the enemy. This life-saving sticker is gathering dust, not because it failed, but because it committed the unforgivable sin of being too cheap to be profitable for the medical industry. Number 6. The crowd crush jacket. In a dense crowd surge like at a festival, people don't die from being trampled, they die from compressive asphyxia. The pressure is so great you cannot expand your chest to take a breath. A brilliant industrial design concept proposed a jacket with built-in rigid air ribs. If you feel the crowd tightening, you pull a cord. The jacket inflates a hard shell that maintains a few inches of space, allowing your lungs to function no matter how hard the crowd pushes. Technically it works, but commercially it's a dud. Why? Because of optimism bias. No teenager goes to a music festival thinking, I might die tonight. They want to look cool, not wear survival gear. Fashion companies know that safety doesn't sell. Marketing a jacket based on the fear of death is a terrible sales pitch. People refuse to spend money preparing for a disaster they believe will never happen to them. So the design remains a prototype on a website while we continue to pack thousands of people into tight spaces, protected by nothing but their own ribs and luck. It is a tragic example of human vanity overriding survival instincts. We refuse to buy safety gear because we think disasters only happen to other people. So the design remains a concept, and we continue to march into dangerous crowds, protected by nothing but denial and a flimsy cotton t-shirt. Number 7. Density-shifting swimwear. Drowning is the leading cause of death for children. It is silent and happens in seconds. Parents and lifeguards can't watch every second. An inventor created a swimsuit containing tiny CO2 cartridges and sensors. If the suit detects the wearer remains submerged at a certain depth for too long without movement, it automatically inflates, bringing the child to the surface face up. But manufacturers are terrified of the false positive. What if the suit inflates while a kid is diving for fun? What if it inflates and traps them under a pool cover? The chaotic variables of water make it a legal minefield. And worse, what if it doesn't inflate? If a parent relies on the suit and their child still drowns, the company faces a billion-dollar negligence lawsuit. The risk of being sued is higher than the reward of saving lives. So companies stick to passive, dumb technology like foam vests and arm floaties. They are uncomfortable and ugly, but they don't malfunction and they don't get you sued. Innovation is being drowned out by corporate cowardice. Companies are so terrified of a potential lawsuit from a malfunction that they refuse to release a product that works 99% of the time. We are stuck with technology from the Titanic era because lawyers have decided that saving a child isn't worth the legal risk. Number 8. The anti-choking necklace. If you live alone and choke on food, you are in serious trouble. You can't perform the Heimlich maneuver on yourself effectively. It is a terrifying way to die. A medical student designed a smart collar. It uses microphones to detect the specific frequency of a blocked windpipe. Once detected, it triggers a mechanical piston that pushes into your neck, simulating a cough to dislodge the food. But look at it. It looks like a robotic torture device. Nobody wants to wear a bulky metal collar to a dinner date. The social stigma of looking weird outweighs the desire for safety. Furthermore, the false positive risk is lethal. If the device malfunctions and punches you in the throat while you are driving or drinking hot coffee, it could cause an accident. The liability insurance would be impossible to afford. So the invention remains a concept art piece. We prefer to risk death by stake rather than wear a weird necklace or risk a robotic throat punch. Ultimately, we are a species that cares more about looking normal than staying alive. This device proves that if safety looks weird or ugly, we will reject it. We would rather risk choking to death on a piece of steak than risk looking foolish at a dinner party for even 1 second. Number 9. Biofoam. We have seen it in sci-fi video games like Halo, a spray that instantly seals wounds. Amazingly, the DARPA US military actually developed this. It is an injectable polymer foam. When a soldier has huge internal bleeding, a medic injects 2 liquids. They mix inside the body, expanding to 30 times their volume, becoming a solid foam that creates pressure and stops the bleeding from the inside out. This could save thousands of car crash and shooting victims in the civilian world every year, but you cannot get it. It is strictly classified for military use and stuck in regulatory hell. The FDA approval process for injecting experimental expanding foam into a human body is understandably slow. It creates complications for surgeons who have to remove the foam later. So for now, this miracle cure is reserved for the battlefield. The technology to stop a fatal bleed in seconds exists, but bureaucracy keeps it out of your local ambulance. It seems that in our society, surviving a fatal wound is a privilege, not a right. The technology to stop a bleed in seconds is sitting right there, locked behind military gates. Apparently, you only deserve 21st century medical miracles if you are wearing a uniform and holding a gun. Number 10. The personal evacuation drone. As skyscrapers get taller, fire ladders become useless. If you are stuck on the 100th floor during a fire, you have 0 options. You are trapped. Israel and China have both tested heavy lift drones capable of carrying a human. They fly up autonomously to the window you hop in, and they gently lower you to the ground. It is a literal flying lifeboat. But don't expect to see them in New York or London. City regulators are terrified of them. They imagine a disaster scenario where thousands of panicked people launch drones at once, crashing into each other and raining debris on the streets. Aviation laws are incredibly strict. Putting thousands of unpiloted heavy aircraft into a dense urban fire zone interferes with police and fire helicopters. The airspace coordination is a nightmare. So the technology to fly away from danger exists, but the laws of air traffic control say no. We have the engineering of the 21st century held back by the regulations of the 20th. Some inventions are just too advanced for our fearful regulated world. But there is one button that isn't forbidden by the government. Smash that subscribe button. It is the only technology guaranteed to make your day better without a lawsuit. See you in the next one.